Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Rabbi Eisenberg. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome
I
back.
was just saying to you that I like the music, and now Clive came through saying we need new music, so we're gonna, typical Shul politics.
I like the old tunes. It's a tradition. We all know it. We all sing along to it. I like that bit at the end where it gets all awkward, where everybody thinks it stopped and then it restarts again. It's cool. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, very well. How are you?
I'm very, very well this evening. We've got a sort of an action-packed show. We've got a fully packed guest list, starting with the friendship circle. So I'm going to just bring Esty in just a second.
I thought you said Rodney was going first.
Well, we did, but Rodney wants us to do the friendship circle first, and then we're going to
do the friendship circle first then.
Okay, so just before we bring SD in, what I'm going to do is, I think there are some fabulous videos floating around out there. I'm going to play some of them so that we can see some of our favorite familiar faces, but we can also hear about the fantastic work of the friendship circle. So I'm going to give this a go, and then we'll bring SD in. Just 1 second. Here we go.
As Hannah Mandel's mother, knowing my daughter has these weekly opportunities to engage in a variety of activities is a blessing. Over the years, Hannah has made dozens of friends, from members to volunteers, past and present. The confidence and self-belief that Hannah has gained is beyond words.
The Friendship Circle have been an incredible lifeline throughout the entire COVID pandemic for Josh, and they have absolutely demonstrated what a fantastic organisation they are. Words are simply insufficient to describe how truly grateful we feel for the work the Friendship Circle has provided, and as a family we just wish to say an enormous thank you.
Our son Adam has been a member of the Friendship Circle for a number of years, and I think they're absolutely wonderful. During COVID, they have excelled themselves. It's been quizzes and singing and art club and challah bakes. It's just been absolutely wonderful, a true lifeline to us and to our son.
All through the lockdown, the Friendship Circle were our link to the outside world.
I mean, for all the young adults with special needs, they managed to make sure that everybody could keep in touch, everybody had something to do.
Since March last year, we shielded Hannah at home. It meant she had to leave behind her life in North Manchester and put vitally important friendships on hold. It was then, however, that the Friendship Circle came to our rescue. All of the Friendship Circle team knew exactly what their members required. Was the Friendship Circle a lifeline? Those of you that know Hannah know that it means far more than just that. The Friendship Circle requires fans, super fans. So please, will you be a super fan to support the vitally important work the Friendship Circle carries out?
What would you want to say, anything, Alex, to the Friendship Circle?
There's just been a lifesaver.
Well, that kind of says it all.
Great videos, Esty, really great.
Thank you very much. Hello.
There is one more video, though, that I defy anybody to keep their wallet in their pocket after watching that video. Okay, I'm going to pop it on because it's a familiar face from our Shul. Here he is.
The Friendship Circle are trying to break the goal of the money so we can have more activities and get more friendship. Please donate so we can get some more money.
How can anyone say no to that?
I've no idea. And Jay was very proud to announce that he is donating some of his pocket money as well, which was very well received by us all.
Absolutely awesome.
You know what I like, David? There was a lot of footage from the Hilton Suite and from the Shrubs, wasn't there? On the first video.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. I mean, the Friendship Circle are absolutely no strangers to Shrubs. In fact, they are truly our friends, and a lot of the Friendship Circle's members, they not only attend but they participate in the best way possible, and it feels very much part of our family. And over lockdown we've missed seeing them around. But Esty, tell us first of all the campaign that you've got on today. It goes on for about another 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, until 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, and you are just a few pounds short of 220,000 at the moment, but your overall goal is 350,000.
Yep.
It's a phenomenal effort to have been able to make it this far with that amount of money being donated. But tell us about just a little bit about how you've been coping over lockdown with the Friendship Circle.
So friendship, obviously, when lockdown started, we were all extremely worried. We did not know how we were going to be able to support our members because, I mean, social interactions was what had to stop, and that's all we did really. So we went onto Zoom, and I'll be honest, at the beginning, I did not know if we were going to be able to manage Zoom. I didn't think our members would get used to it, but after sort of the first few, we realized that it was going really well. Zoom came with loads of home deliveries, so the activities are really like interactive and exciting. We did some incredible events online, and one of them, David, that you hosted the talent show, that was really fabulous. People talk about it. That was really fun. Loads of exciting things that we got to, we really got to think outside the box. For instance, over Hanukkah, we actually had the best Hanukkah this year than we ever did. We got everyone to come to their Zoom with their Hanukkah candles every single night, which we've never done that before. We've lit candles with everyone every night. And we did a massive Hanukkah truck, which went round. It was like a moving rave with a DJ and flashing lights and giant menorah. And we went to visit every single member's house, and they came outside and we danced on the street. And it was incredible because we'd never thought of doing anything like that. So it's made us think outside the box. Hi, Adam from downstairs. I'm upstairs. Adam's downstairs in the hub. It made us think outside the box. It made us become a lot more accessible to people who were not able to access the services. So overall, COVID has been quite positive with many different ways, but it's been really, really hard work. Now we're starting to introduce some face-to-face things. So we've got a bit of both, and I think we've decided we're going to keep Zoom as part of our calendar from now on. Obviously, we're not going to take away any face-to-face activities, but we're just going to have both because some people really, for instance, our Monday art clubs doubled in attendance since we started them on Zoom. So obviously that's something that people want, and that's something to continue.
Fantastic. And obviously, since was it this morning that the donations opened for this campaign?
Yes, I think some started trickling in last night, but the campaign officially started at 10 o'clock this morning.
So you must be thrilled by how it's going so far. What's the atmosphere like there in Friendship Circle HQ?
It's incredible. I mean, we keep getting shouts of delight when there's big donations coming through. I mean, it's exhausting, and the whole team have been working really hard. But it's all down to our amazing team leaders. We have about 112 or 13 team leaders who all have gone out to their own networks and have fundraised really, really hard for us. And that, honestly, we could not do it without them. And we have some amazing pages who are bringing in and working really hard. Some people are coming to the hub. Our members are here helping us. So it's a great atmosphere, and it's just really nice to see the community come together to support us. We have Shul's, an incredible Strawberries page. And we also have 3 schools that have pages that we did awareness days in the schools, and all the parents are pitching in, especially tomorrow. They'll be getting the link to support us as well. So it feels really special that everyone's coming together from all different parts of the community.
Fantastic. Well, it is a superb organization. We continue to be in awe of all the work that you and your team are doing out there. And so good luck and hatzlacha in getting to into the finish line.
I think one of the highlights for me in my tenure being in the Shul was that Friendship Circle Shabbaton that we had. Do you still remember that?
That was amazing. Anytime, honestly. I can't wait to come back with everyone. It was a really great Shabbos, and it really, to me, it showed us like that's what we're all about, bringing community and the Friendship Circle community together to become one. And when we did the Shrubberies one, we actually aimed to then do that with a lot of other shuls. And we had one planned for May, but obviously that didn't happen that year. So, you know, please God, that will start happening again soon, that kind of thing. But it was just, Shrubberies was the most welcoming and the most kind, loving community ever. And I'm so glad we got to start with Shrubberies. I'm sure we'll continue for a very long time. So thank you.
You are welcome back anytime. And we are glad to have people like Adam, Patrick, and David Rains as part of our community. And for me, the highlight was David Rains introducing the rabbi on Shabbos.
Brilliant.
To speak. For me, it doesn't get much better than that. That is probably my favorite shul moment ever. Esty, thank you very much for coming on. We're not going to take any more of your time because I know you guys are hammering the phones tonight.
Gotta get back to work. Thank you so much.
Let you go. All right, great.
Thanks,
nice
guys.
to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. That was a great Shabbos, wasn't it?
It was an awesome Shabbos. The atmosphere in Shul was just it was something different. It was just it was special in every single way.
You know, there's so many different facets to it. You know, David Rains getting his aliyah the first time in a very, very long time, I think.
Yeah, I think
remember that?
I think he mentioned that he hadn't had that since his bar mitzvah or something similar to that.
Yeah, like 30 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people got to speak, and then we had this, and the lunch was phenomenal. It was just a really amazing, Shabbos.
And I'm so proud of our congregation for the way that they are welcoming like that as well. And it always, for as long as I can remember, it always has been such a place, even before the Friendship Circle were around in Manchester. So that's phenomenal.
It's actually interesting. I had somebody say to me after that Shabbaton, they said, we wanted to do it in a few other shuls, but if any other shul could match what the Shrubberies did, we'd be disappointed. That's what he said to me.
Yeah, I remember.
Non-member, by the way, not someone from our shul.
Yeah. No, it was a phenomenal Shabbos for everybody. Right, I think we can welcome on our next guest. He's sat patiently in the wings over here. I'm going to bring him in. Good evening to Mr. Rodney Berkeley. How are you doing, Rodney?
Good evening, Rodney.
Very well, thank you. How are you all? Okay?
We're all doing fine, thank you.
Excellent.
Nice to see you.
Right. I thank you very much for giving me 5 minutes of your time. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Don't be alarmed. This is not a coup d'etat. I'm not taking over the show, but I have something nice to share with you. For the past few weeks, the focus of the discussions on the Shrubs Sunday Night Live has been about the future as we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And provided there are no further obstacles in that tunnel, please God, we will continue to come out of lockdown. We, myself and my fellow trustees of the Shul, are likewise considering the future, but at the same time, we have been reviewing the past. There is no doubt that from Her Majesty the Queen down, everyone has been affected by this terrible pandemic. And sadly, so many have lost their lives, including members of our Shul. Equally, from the Prime Minister down, we have all had to make difficult decisions, some more than others, and undoubtedly mistakes have been made along the way. However, there can be no doubt that everyone has been acting for what was considered to be best for all. On the positive side, how fortunate we are that the two countries that are nearest to our heart, the UK and Israel, have been globally the spearheads in combating and overcoming COVID. Likewise, in this shul, we have been blessed with leaders, aided by many volunteers who have gone the extra mile and beyond to maintain our services and provide social activities. Everything under extremely difficult circumstances, but always strictly complying with the laws and rules and directives of the government, the local authorities, the chief rabbi's office. We truly are blessed. So we, the trustees, decided that it was high time that some measure of appreciation should be made. It is therefore my pleasure to ask you, Rabbi, to be the recipient of all, on behalf of all these wonderful people, and to ask you virtually to accept this statement of appreciation. Now, I don't know if it's going to come through on the.
I can see it as an appreciation. Wow!
Right.
Oh, wow.
This is from all the members of the shul. Now, I shall read it out for you because I can't hold it up and read it out at the same time.
All right. We'd love to hear what it says.
Oh,
I see Michelle's over there. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
She's coming to the picture. Hi.
The Disata Dishmaya, the Shubris, in appreciation, the trustees, aldermen, council, and members of the Prestwich Hebrew congregation wish to express their appreciation and gratitude to all those named below and many others for the unstinting time, effort, and devotion they have given in providing and maintaining all the religious services and social activities of our congregation, strictly in accordance with the mandatory regulations during the period of the COVID-19 pandemic 2020-21. Rabbi David and Rebbitzin Miriam Eisenberg, Chazan Adam and Lizzie Kaplan, Executive Ian Creek, President, David Mintz, Vice President, Paul Davies, Treasurer, Adam Shogger, Warden, Richard Elton and Gary Hershkovitz, Honorary Secretaries. Youth Services, Rivka and Mikey Lebret, Adi Abelis. Tuesday Tea Club, Robert Nathan. Office, Stephen Wolf, Wendy Cohen-Wilkes, Petra Rodriguez Pereira, Deborah Finley. Administration, Paul Barrett and all his staff. Kol mi she'oski b'tzorchei tzibur be'emunah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishalem sacharam. All those who are involved faithfully in the needs of the congregation, the Holy One, blessed is He, will pay their reward. So let me just say that this is but a small outward sign of a great inward sense of a gratitude that each and every member of the shul has for you all. We so much appreciate that you have all been working under exceptional circumstances and sometimes under great stress. We hope you will note that the text states those named below and many others. And we are very much aware that there are so many others, and they all equally deserve our appreciation for all they do. I am sure the executive will find somewhere suitable within the shul complex to display this appreciation, and that, please God, we should all be able to look at it in the future, and we'll be able to say to each other, do you remember when COVID struck? We will be presenting smaller versions of this to all those who have given of themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for allowing me to make this presentation on your behalf. And back to you, Rabbi and David.
Wow. I'm speechless. Rodney, thank you very, very much. It's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
I think it's the first time you've been speechless, isn't it, David?
It's hard to get me speechless, but that is Rodney. You've been in this position before, and you know that it's sometimes a thankless task, and it can be very difficult to know that you're carrying on and doing the right thing. And I think that the executive and the rabbi and all of the people that you've mentioned have put in a great deal of effort over the last year, and we know we don't always get it right, but we try very hard. We try very hard.
Everybody's done what they thought was best for the Shul and for the country as well, in my opinion.
Rodney, it is beyond touching. I'm very moved.
Really.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity for letting me present it online here.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Rodney. We're gonna let you go, and we'll get on with the rest of the discussion. But thank you ever so much. That was just most unexpected. Thank you. Okay.
A lot of work, by the way. There's a lot of people that have put in a lot of work, and all those people mentioned on that list, and again, as you said, and a few extras. It was really. There's been a lot of people that have done a lot of hard work this year. They really have.
Tons. I almost feel like we should stop the show there. It's never going to get any better than that for me. That was superb. It was also very, very nicely written. What they put together, and Rodney's speech as well. I do
feel also, as we spoke about recently, it was really a team effort. I don't think that there's one person you can point to and say, it's because of him or because of her that it happened. I think together we all, and the people that put in the effort, and all those mentioned on the certificate, did each pull their weight in their own way, and everybody really made sure that other people within the community, even though we're far apart, still felt somewhat together.
Yeah, and I think it is the people at home and the members, even those that maybe didn't do anything except for just watch one of our Sunday nights or engage in a Tuesday afternoon. Whatever you did, supporting your shul and playing your part and staying connected to your community is as important as all the other people that did anything during that time. And it's just, I am phenomenally proud of what our congregation altogether has achieved. Every single one of them, every single one.
Yeah.
Right. So should we get on with the discussion now?
No, that's it. We should both retire. It doesn't get any better than this. We're done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Well, you know what? As perhaps a nice point to get back into the discussion, obviously we started a discussion based on the costs. Broadly speaking, it was the cost of living an Orthodox Jewish life. That's what we were discussing last time. And in between now and then, I have had an email through from Modi Schwitzer, who a couple of years ago, I think, gave a speech or gave a small Dvar Torah in Shul, and it was for Parshas Pekudei at the time. And I'm just going to read out some points of it because I believe that his wisdom is very, very pertinent to this discussion. So his speech opens as follows: when Bill Gates and Warren Buffett challenged the world's wealthiest people to give away more than half of their wealth in their lifetime, the first 13 billionaires to respond were all Jewish. Today, the list numbers over 190 pledges, and an overwhelming percentage of them are still Jewish. According to Forbes, more than 1/3 of living donors who have given away in excess of $1 billion are Jewish. Jews give to charity. It is in our DNA. And it was also in that Sedra. And what's interesting is he goes on later to point out some statistics. And Modi says that the common factor is always generosity, that Jews may not always make the right choices in what they give to, but they give, and they give a lot. In March 2016, the Institute for Jewish Policy Research in London published a report. They stated that 2,300 Jewish charities existed then in the UK, with a total combined income of 1.1 billion per annum. in that same year, total charity collected in the UK as a whole, according to the CAF, was 9.7 billion. Jewish charity income was therefore over 11% of the total UK charitable income. And that's quite impressive for a group that represent less than 0.5% of the total population. He goes on to say, ladies and gentlemen, if that figure isn't staggering enough, we need to understand that there is a strong suggestion within the report that the majority of Jewish charitable donations are not to Jewish charities, adding a minimum of another 11%. So they don't have statistics on exactly how much charity was given in total by UK by the Jews, as it is near impossible to determine Jewish donations into mainstream charities. However, based on the statistics of that particular study, it is clear to see that many Jews who feature prominently on that list mainly also support non-Jewish causes. So those are staggering statistics, really, aren't they, Rabbi? When you listen to them, in terms
I've used these statistics in the past. I was shocked, actually. I remember Modi giving that speech. Modi, I remember that one, and I was shocked when he said that, because really, I think when Modi said that, basically, if you calculate that, that would mean almost 25% of all donations. Because if we're saying the more money goes to non-Jewish charities than goes to Jewish charities, and Jewish charities make up 11% of all donations in the UK, so then that would mean you have at least 12% going to non-Jewish charities as well, which would mean that nearly a quarter of all charitable money given in the UK is given by 0.5%, which means they're giving 50 times as much as you'd expect them to give.
Yeah,
it's a staggering amount.
It's a huge amount, and tonight, I mean, it's laughable. And in fact, if you remember, a few weeks ago, we showed the Ashley Blaker video, which was done in jest. It was talking about that this weekend will be the only weekend without a matching campaign. But I have been contacted this weekend by 3 charities. I think that there's a Manchester Yeshiva that is collecting money this weekend.
Yeah.
You've got the Friendship Circle, of course. You've also got the Jewish Chaplaincy. It seems relentless, the drive to raise money for charities. And I think my question was, where's all this money coming from? Where are we going to find it? Because we just keep on giving. And Modi would suggest that it's within our DNA. We couldn't stop it even if we wanted to. It's part of our cultural DNA. It's how we've raised our children. It's the values that we are taught in the Torah back that up day in, day out. But it's staggering how we do manage to support these charities so well. And
well, there are 2 things here really within the charities which I find interesting, because every charity, I was involved slightly in a campaign, or we started discussing the campaign for the local mikveh here. There's a mikveh on Tetlow Lane, that's the Besdin's mikveh, and that's in state of disrepair. And we had a conversation about maybe starting a charity for it. And really the way it works is, first you need to find all those people that are willing to match the funds. So let's say for the campaign today for the Friendship Circle, it's £350,000, which is matched. That means before they started, Esty and her team had to find £175,000 amongst donors that have probably been tapped up not once and not twice before, and to find somebody to say, yes, I will give 175,000, or part of it. I will give X thousand pounds to charity. They bring it together. Now we have the pot of 175. And then they need to go out to mainstream people like myself and yourself, who can't really give that 175,000 pounds. And well, I'll talk for myself.
Not on my rabbi's salary. Let me tell you.
Not on your rabbi's salary. No, definitely not. Right? Then and then you have to find, and you find that the people go ahead and they give money, and people are just constantly giving and giving. Although it's actually interesting that I spoke about this today when I was speaking to a group of girls, and I was speaking about peer pressure, and in a way, these charity campaigns have created a certain amount of peer pressure for people as well. Because there are people that feel they have to give. David, if you sent me a message saying I have a page with the Friendship Circle, would you please give to my page? I feel obliged to give, even if I've given to 10 people to the Friendship Circle already. I would still feel obliged to give to your page because, you know, we have such a great working relationship that I would just feel obliged to give. And that's basically what's happening over here, is that the team leaders are creating sort of almost a peer pressure amongst their peer group to give money. So it's interesting to think where all this money comes from. But on the other hand, you know, with all this money, the question has to be the other way around as well. Is there a way then to make sure that living Jewish life doesn't become a super league? If there's so much money around to help so many different things, why is it that so many people are still struggling?
The truth is, there is no, and I think this is some of the feedback that I've had between our original discussion and today, because obviously a good few weeks have elapsed now. But one of the things that most people said is, look, you had a discussion and you brought up all the issues and you chatted it all through, but you don't have an answer. The rabbi can't possibly answer that. And the truth is, it's one of those questions which unfortunately none of us have an answer to. And some of the biggest organizations that are out there doing communal work every day are trying, as we speak, to answer that question. I know the Fed has contemplated, you know, what happens and the structure of communal giving, and whether or not there should be one central pot that is then distributed out to others, or should it all remain autonomous, and should everybody have a fair sort of crack of the whip? So there are lots of discussions ongoing out there, and there is no bottom line to it. It's a very, very difficult situation to be in. But I was also reminded that this isn't necessarily a Jewish problem, if you like. That yes, it will cost you on average more than an average non-Jewish family to live your life. It's going to, in terms of food, education, where you may live, simchas, and all of that sort of stuff. That does cost more. But these days, if you were to compare young couples getting married today, whether they're Jewish or not, compared to their grandparents' generation, in terms of their ability to buy houses, for instance, or make major investments, or to put money away for pensions, or whatever it may be, that's a conversation that is extremely difficult. And there are people that are waiting later and later in life to, for instance, to get on the property ladder, or whatever it may be.
The average age is 39 now in the UK.
I think so, yeah. And the UK is, you know, we're a nation of homeowners. We love to, you know, we always talk about, you know, an Englishman's home is his castle, but that's really true. People focus on this a lot. Sharon Hood has commented, you do feel bad if you can't afford to give as much as others in the team page. However, it seems to be a very successful way to reach a target. But on that note, Rabbi, I don't know if you agree with this, but whereas matching campaigns have worked really well during sort of the COVID era, and particularly the past year, there's only so long that can go on for, surely, before people get fatigued.
Could be, but you know what? I remember the matching campaign that my son's school did 2 years ago, which was pre-COVID days. And I remember the hub, and I remember the excitement, and that they had to come up with £720,000. Now, I don't know if you remember the days when it was an all or nothing. That's how they all started. It was all or nothing. And sort of like they kept on saying, if we don't reach our goal, all the money will be refunded and everybody's getting the money back. And I think they've stepped down from that. That has become slightly something that we don't do anymore. But, you know, on the one hand, yes, you know what, I think people do feel fatigued. On the other hand, people seem to keep giving. You know, if people were so fatigued, why is it that all these charities keep on reaching the target? I would expect most of them not to reach the target. And only a handful, like the CST, like the Fed. You know, the CST reached the target in like record time. But everybody in Anglo Jewry appreciates the CST. And therefore, Anglo Jewry says, CST, I'm giving money. And everybody stepped forward and gave money right away because it just made sense. They do so much for the community. Let's just give to them. But if a smaller charity steps forward, you'd expect them not to manage, and somehow they all seem to manage, which seems to be saying to me, yes, people complain about the fatigue of giving. On the other hand, they just keep on giving. Otherwise, you'd have all these charities faltering at their campaigns.
Clive says, doesn't the Torah say that there will always be poor people among us? So no matter how much we give, it will never be enough. But whatever we do give, we will always get back.
Okay, so 2 points over there. Number one, as the Torah says, Ki lo yachtal evi mikayavaz, there'll always be poor people. So you're right, there'll always be poor people. But I remember Jackie Buxbaum once saying that poor people today still live so much better than poor people did 100 years ago. If you look at poor people, yes, you might have people that are living literally homeless, et cetera, et cetera. But on the average, even the people that are below the average and would be considered in poverty in this country, most of them will still have some form of roof over their head. They will have some form of food, maybe even if they have to get from a food bank. Their children will still be able to access education. They'll still have access to sanitation and to hygiene, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas about 100 years ago, chances are if somebody had the same luck as they have now, they'd be out on the street with the rats or something. It'd be a very, very different discussion.
Yeah, I do think our definition of wealth has changed.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, if you had work, you didn't know maybe sometimes from day to day whether you would have work or week to week. There was there was no such thing as long-term job stability in some sectors of the market. If you look at all those immigrants that came over and lived in Hightown here in Manchester. And it's interesting if you look at the results of the surveys that was taken in the census surveys that were taken in the early 1900s. Most of these people, most of the Jewish people back then, had jobs working in textile factories, and they weren't all the factory owners. Most of them were
machinists.
They were
cutters, whatever they're called.
Gummers, the people that used to glue the coats together, whatever it may be. And these are traditionally going to be lower income families. But I can only speak for when my grandfather told me about his, how his parents worked. So again, yeah, they would have had relatively low level jobs, but they made sure that their children had a better standard of education than they had. And they made sure that their children were very fully integrated members of English society at that point, both in terms of language and education and contributing to society. And a lot of then my grandfather's generation went on to have more, I suppose, white collar, respectable jobs. He was a dentist, but plenty of his generation ended up being sort of accountants, solicitors, doctors, everything that a good Jewish mother would push a good Jewish boy into doing.
Yeah, but I think that's, I think as Jews, this is something that, especially as immigrants, we realize is that, you come into a country, you really want to be pushing the kids forward on the social mobility ladder. And so in order to get them up the ladder of social mobility, you realize there are a few things that you will need. You will need to learn the language. And, I think it's not only our communities, but I think if you look, for example, at the Asian community, you'll find a lot of them came here and didn't have the greatest jobs. And I know in Israel, for example, a lot of Russians who moved to Israel who even have degrees. They might have degrees in higher education in Russia. They still sweep the floors. They don't have because they don't speak the language. But they keep on saying to their children, don't make, I live in this country by the grace of the country that took me in, and I ran away from my country. But you grew up over here. You don't need to live the life that I lived. You need to go ahead and need to make something of yourself. So in order to make something of yourself, go out and get an education. Go out and integrate into society, because you don't have to be you don't have to sweep the streets. You can actually be anything you wanted to. And I think we as Jews have always believed that we have the ability to move up, and we've always had the social mobility in all the different, you look to Spain in the Golden Age, you'll find the Jews are very, very high up. You look in Germany before the Second World War, you'll find the Jews very, very high up. And now after the war again, America, the UK, France, you look around, you'll find again and again that Jews who had moved to that country made that mobility. And I think they often speak about the fact that people who come from lower areas, there's that lack of social mobility. They can't get up further the ladder. If you're talking to people who grew up in a very rough part of Salford, often they'll say that they're trapped in a cycle of poverty. Their parents were poor, and they're going to be poor, and their kids are going to be poor, and they're not going to have an education, and they won't, and I think the Jewish people have shown that it doesn't have to be that way. You could really decide to say, let's break that cycle of poverty, let's come out of it, let's integrate, and I think education has been such a big part of that within Jewish consciousness. We've always been besotted with education. We've always been crazy about educating people, whether it is in Jewish life, so people sit and learn all day long, or whether it is, in secular studies. They're probably more, as we said, they're per capita more Nobel Prize winners amongst the Jews than almost everybody else, because we're just crazy about education. But I think education is the key to so much in that social mobility network.
Okay, so the question then is, and I'll illustrate this by giving you an example. So have you ever been to Tesco's very late on a Thursday night?
Oh, yes.
What you might see...
I don't shop on Tesco that often, actually, but
So back in the day, I remember, this is probably going back about 10 years ago, I was in Tesco's doing my pre-Shabbos shop on a Thursday night, and I had a shopping basket that was, it was groaning more than I was about doing the shopping. And I bumped into another, a very fun guy that I know, and he also was pushing a try. And we laughed at each other because, what are these two idiots doing wandering around Tesco's 11 o'clock at night, spending more money than they know how to earn, particularly on what was, we both knew it was Shabbos shopping. And I sort of just said to him, look, it's ridiculous how much money we invest in this part of our life. The fact that we are, we're having big Shabbos meals or big Yom Tov meals. And he said, yes, but doesn't it make you work harder? And I said to him, what do you mean? He said, look, Jewish men, they're programmed to work very, very hard because they know they have to provide at this level. You have to make Shabbos, and you're going to have to make Yom Tov. So Jewish men and women, they know that they have to work hard, and they know that they have to do the best that they possibly can. So the question I was going to ask you is our focus on education because we know that it takes this much work to keep up with these costs, or is it the other way around?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, that it's a shame that what your friend said to you, it happens to be true, but I don't think it needs to be that way. I don't think we should. We shouldn't really be just like out there and buying and buying and buying. And I think as Jews, that's it's part of our problem is that we've created almost our own. Coming back to the question about the Super League, we've created almost our own impossible standards. So I don't know how old Dael is now, but at what point is Dael going to be going like on Israel tour, for example?
So she's 13, and that's a discussion that's already started. It's an expensive.
It's a very expensive thing. What is it? A couple of £1,000 or something like that, maybe more.
Yeah, that's to go on a short trip to Israel. If I was talking to a colleague the other day whose daughter will be finishing school. She would like to spend a year out in Israel on one of these programs, like a gap year. She'll spend some time volunteering on a kibbutz. They'll spend some time in a SEM. They'll get some education. They'll learn to live with other Israeli families. They'll learn a lot during that year.
But it comes at a hefty price.
The cost, conservatively, and that's without giving them any spending money at all, will be in the ballpark of £20,000.
I said 15. It's 20. Wow.
Yeah. In the ballpark.
That becomes like a Super League now because it becomes unaffordable.
It does, and the person I was talking to is not somebody that I would class as poor, but still £20,000 for a year of full experience. Now, had I done the same year, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago, it wouldn't have been anywhere near £20,000.
Yeah, but this is the inflation cost and everything. It was still expensive then.
Yeah. It needs to be adjusted, but the point is that
I think you think about it, but then again, that's like an experience. So to me, that's very much, it's a lovely experience. On the other hand, if you can't afford it, it's just that kind of thing where you have to say, and I feel bad to say this to parents, but is this a wise decision to spend that much money on your kids going a bit to kibbutz, a bit to Sem, a bit, it's lovely. It's great. It's wonderful if you can afford it and, good on you. But there'll be parents that going back to what you said before. There are parents that are working 2 jobs or something like that and working their socks off to be able to send their kid to Israel to spend a year in kibbutz and going from Shabbos from place to place and meeting Israeli families and climbing Masada and doing some time in the seminary. And I don't know if, are we making the right decision? Is that a wise decision? Or are we just living beyond our means?
So here we go. We've got some good comments coming in. I'm just going to bring them up. Brian Cohen, I think this is Heather. Good evening, Heather. How are you doing? During COVID, people have not spent as much because they haven't been going out, entertaining or buying new clothes. So maybe there's been more money in our pots to give to charities. That's true. That is
yeah,
true.
But some people have taken a big hit in their income also. So there are 2 sides to the coin. So that people that have businesses, not every business, if you have a salary and you get your salary regardless, that's one thing. But if you run a business and your business took a hit and you didn't pivot or anything, so you took a hit.
One thing we've learned about homeschooling children is that mince children eat a lot all the time.
Yes,
it costs a fortune to have them at home. They will literally eat you out of house and home.
Well, we made a rule at home, by the way, because my kids were eating out of boredom. They weren't eating because they were hungry. And so we made a rule at home. You can have as much snacks as you want to, but only 1 cup of snack an hour, because that's all you need to really fill you up. My kids took a book, they sat on the couch, and they just went through a whole bag of pretzels. And if you asked them what they just ate, they would have to look at the bag to see what they were eating. Because they were only eating it out of boredom.
It was a very strange time. Clive Moss Barkley, how much does it cost for a year at Yeshiva or Sem?
Okay, that's an excellent question, Clive, and I think sometimes too much, right? However, I think this goes back to the same conversation that this might go back to another point that Modi made. I don't know if Modi sent you this as well. And that is, some people will spend money on university education. It's costing now it's costing them $9,000. And I think people are moaning about the fact that it's costing them $9,000 to have a university degree that sort of feels like you and I doing Sunday Night Live.
Yeah.
That's basically what, if you have in-person classes, that's one thing. But, I'm sitting in my home in front of a computer. I'm still paying for sometimes dormitory fees and all sorts of fees that don't make any sense. They should have really at least brought down the price of the, but people say, yes, it's £9,000, but I feel I'm getting something for it. So I think with Yeshiva and Sem, you're right. It is a very, very expensive thing. I won't take that, but I think people are willing to invest in it because they feel they get something for it. What I was mentioning before about the Sem, about that experience of the gap year in Israel, sometimes you're not really getting value for money as such. And I think a lot of people have even mentioned that with university, you're not necessarily getting value for money, because if you wanted to, you could actually condense a 4-year course into 2 years and just give people a bit more homework and a few more classes a week. And people say, well, yes, but it's the university experience. They're meeting new people, they're going out to have a drink in the pub, et cetera, that complements the whole thing. So I don't know, when it comes to this question about year cost for Yeshiva at Sem, yes, it's very, very expensive. Is it something that, that I think the people that are sending there feel it's an important investment they're making in their children and not just an extra experience?
So I know we had this discussion when we were discussing the based in, we were discussing the cost of kosher food.
Yeah.
There is profit in some of these parts of our Jewish life. I would imagine there's not an awful lot of profit in sort of keeping shuls open or schools particularly. I think that's a bit of a miserable end of the market. But certainly when it comes to kosher food, that industry puts a lot of food on a lot of tables, but not necessarily the people that are buying. We're talking about the people that are selling. Is there any, I mean, do you think it's practical in any way that at some point the people that issue the hechsherim actually sit down and think, do you know what, this isn't right, it's escalating, and we've got a duty to bring it under control?
I don't think they will do that, because I think even the people that are giving their hechsherim have to keep their organization open as well. So I know as a trustee at the Beth Din what it costs to run the Beth Din, and I know that that it's the kashrus fees that are literally keeping the Beth Din afloat, because it's expensive to have dayanim, it's expensive to have staff, etc., etc. And the only way to be able to do that is through giving kashrus certificates and through selling meat. The issue is that, I guess that people feel that they're getting, so I think some people feel they're getting fleeced over here. Do you not think that sometimes people feel they're getting fleeced by the prices of?
I do. I mean, I listen. I bumped into you. I think every year my pre-Pesach ritual is bumping into you in Kosher Savers. I think the title of that shop is a little bit ironic at Pesach time though, and the issue is this: the same pack of eggs or the same pack of milk that cost you X pounds last week now costs you that much this week because it's
20%,
Pesach.
yeah.
So yeah, I feel that I'm getting fleeced, and I work hard, but I'm able to afford what I buy. There's a lot of people that are not in the same position, regardless of how hard they work.
Absolutely.
They're still not able to afford it. And when I think of those sort of families at Pesach time, particularly, I think that we've created an industry that I mean, it is a little bit akin to, you hear non-Jewish people perhaps talking about the Christmas industry, about how expensive that can be, and the pressure for people to give presents or to eat more lavishly at that time of the year, and the way that prices seem to have that kind of a great degree of variation and flexibility.
Yeah.
So it's something that I really find it's
So I think
not
there
the
are two
most
things
attractive
over
side
there.
of our.
Yeah. So I think I'd say two things. Number one is there are shops that will give people discounts. I'm not talking to you now because, again, as you said, Baruch Hashem, yes, you work hard and yes, you're able to afford what you're buying. But there are plenty of people that are not in the privileged position that you are in and are not able to afford what they're buying. And there are shops that will sell things for cheaper and will sell things sometimes even at a loss, where somebody else is going to be picking up the tab. And number two, and I know this, and I know this from our own community, that we have a charity pot to help people, who are less fortunate, and come Yom Tov time when the expenses, there are people that manage and do okay the rest of the year. But Yom Tov time, I know that the expenses come around Yom Tov time is phenomenal. That 1 week of Pesach can cost me 2 or 3 times as much as a regular week, easily. Matzah, all the other items, the extra meat, the extra fish, the extra bits and pieces, and then your kids have to be kitted out with new clothes. It's a new season, sort of. It's heavy going. It's really, really, and so we have, and this is part of what the Jewish communities do all around, is you have what's called Maos Chitim. You have campaigns to help people that are less fortunate, to help them be able to bridge that gap between what they earn and what they're able. So you have both sides of the coin. Number one, shops that try to help out and are in food that's being subsidized, and number two, people being given money. And again, that's part of our society. I don't know that there is something similar in non-Jewish society before Christmas, where people get money to help them buy Christmas presents for their kids. I don't know that there is a widespread,
there are
Tesco's to give food cheaper.
There are charities and there are food banks, and the some of the biggest contributors are supermarkets, who obviously tend to sort of donate food that perhaps is going out of date or whatever it may be. But there are those campaigns ongoing, particularly at around sort of Christmas time. I think with us it tends to be more constant. Although, having said all of that, we have several times a year, it's not just Pesach, that we have to. And we just had Shavuos, so you've got Yom Tov, a 2-day Yom Tov over there, which came, just after Shavuos. So that's a marathon of meals that you've got.
Yeah, the cheesecake wasn't exactly cheap, and there were all types.
No, exactly. But you know what I'm saying. You've then got, you're going to have, in an average cycle, you've got Rosh Hashanah, you've got Yom Kippur, you've got Sukkot afterwards. And Sukkot comes with that. It's not just the meals. You have to buy a lulav and an esrog, which I'm sorry, ain't exactly, it's not cheap either. You've got to
buy kids new clothes for the winter season. That's when the winter season starts for us. I know around Yom Tov time, it's not only the Yom Tov food, but it's all the clothing and everything that comes with it. Because now it starts getting winter. You start having to get the kids winter dresses and winter suits and things like that, and regular clothes and coats, and it piles on. It really does.
So Clive's asking here. Well, I'll go back to Sheila's comment. Some parents go into debt to be able to educate and to support young married children, etc. Clive Moss Barkley says, why should so many Jewish families need to get their food via food banks? Is it to do with the high cost of kosher food?
Partially. I think it also has to do with partially, and would have to do also with family size.
It is.
So if you have a family of 10 kids, it's going to cost a fortune to feed them. That's just how it is.
So this is a circuitous conversation. It's a classic Jewish conversation. We go around in circles with no real outcome to it, and it's a very interesting discussion. But let me ask you this: do you think, therefore? So there are two questions here. Number one, do we feel that the cost of being an Orthodox Jew is so high that some people will be tempted to say, you know what, I love being a Jew culturally, but I absolutely don't want to engage with this anymore. I'm going off to live a more secular life because it's simply more affordable. And number two, perhaps this is a question particularly within the Haredi community rather than the more secular, is family planning becoming more of a subject? Is there an active, because that was obviously very much discouraged. Family planning is not part of the Jewish mode of life necessarily. We didn't get to choose those alternatives if you were religious. So it's a sensitive subject, I know. But
okay, so we'll go back to both of them. Let's go back to point number one, which was, you said, are people going to leave? I don't know. Maybe. I think some people might leave. I don't think, overwhelmingly people that enjoy their Jewish life will sort of stick to the Jewish life. What I would say, on the other hand, is that you can find ways to bring down the costs of certain things. And, you don't have to buy the most expensive of everything, and you don't have to keep on inviting friends for Shabbos. You don't have to keep on entertaining, et cetera, et cetera. All that is going to cost a lot of money. So I think in general, what I found is that I've not found so many people that have left Orthodox life, or, definitely not in the Haredi or even in the modern Orthodox circles. I think if you get more traditional, there potentially you'll find people that, but on the other hand, I'll find a lot of people that'll spend money on other things. So they'll drive much fancier cars. They'll live in nicer houses. So those fancier cars and nicer houses will also, the money for them will have to come from somewhere, and so they might not be spending it on the kosher food. Instead, they'll spend it on their, somebody driving a Bentley, it's a lot. I can make a lot of Shabbos meals for the price of your Bentley. That's the first thing I would say. As far as family planning is concerned, I think it has become more of a conversation. I think also it's not been something that has been as easy to regulate in the olden days, and has become something that, halachically speaking, can be regulated nowadays, even, within the halacha. And that Rabbonim have become, I know people that, speak to lots of different Rabbonim, and people discuss the stresses that come with having another child, because finance is not the only stress. Yes, finance is a stress that comes with having another child, and every child needs to be supported, and there's a certain amount of money that will be necessary to keep that child going. But I think, a child, the financial stress of having a child, I would even venture to say, is the smallest stress comparatively to everything else. It's the time, it's the emotional energy, It's all that investment that needs to go into having a child, which is not so easy. And for certain people, they're already at breaking point as is. It's just not clever for them to be having children. And there are people that I know that are, where they have children and the entire community goes, oh, no, that wasn't such a good idea. You're not exactly managing so well with the other 7 that you have. Well, you have to bring another 8th, what would we call it? Antisocial child, whatever, into the world. From Anonymous. Being Jewish, a type of Jewish, is becoming exclusive.
So I've just received a message from a anonymous person, somebody that another, really sort of reiterating that it is exclusive, isn't it? It's a club.
But what type is he talking about? Whoever the fellow is or a woman is, I don't know. I'm being very sexist over here by saying it has to be a guy. It could be a woman who sent you this message.
We will ask that person to comment again if they can.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I don't know. As you said, I don't know if there's going to be a good answer to this question, but I think there are certain things that we do that are extra. So if you get rid of the extras, you can easily cut down costs by bringing down the cost on some of the extras that you have. You don't have to keep on entertaining. You don't have to send your kids to the most expensive camps. You don't have to buy your kids the fancy. We as Jewish people, we like to buy designer clothing. We're just into that. If you tell people I bought clothes at George, you've been embarrassed saying to people like, I buy my kids stuff at George. I don't buy stuff at George. I'll buy it Next. I'll buy a polo. I'll buy here. I'll buy there. We like to wear nice clothing, and we're embarrassed of certain things. So that we as people also have become sort of exclusive or snobby about the way we do things. And then we complain to ourselves about the cost of certain things. Not all of the things that cost so much money are inflicted by Judaism. Some of them are self-inflicted. But yes, I think you can't get away from the fact that a Jewish life is going to be more expensive, even when you get rid of all the pitchifkis around.
And do you think leadership, so Rabbonim, for instance, or leaders of communities in general, can they do anything to encourage people to just rein it in and calm down and understand what is important?
I wish we could. Do you know what? I think that a lot of times people believe that Rabbonim have more power than they actually have. Now, this just sounds a bit of a megalomaniac now, but I wish I had as much power as other people think that I have. I'm saying that very carefully. But sometimes people call me up and they said, Rabbi, so-and-so is not giving a divorce. What do you have to say about that? I say, I think it's terrible, but there's not much I can do about it. And sometimes, by the way, that can be men or women, because they can be men that refuse to give divorces, and they can be women that refuse to accept divorces, and both of them are problems now in halacha. Not getting to the guna issue at all. But
that sounds like a topic for another Sunday night.
Sunday night live. We'll leave it for a different Sunday night live. But people come and says, do something. I said, I wish I could. What am I going to do? Call somebody up and say you have to give a divorce? I wish I could get people to listen. I can get people to come to shul. Forget about giving divorces. Forget about shit. You want to say to people, I think you should make a smaller simcha. I don't think you need to spend 5 figures on a band that's coming into your simcha. I think, a one-man band will do the trick. I don't know if people will listen to me. And the problem is oftentimes when people make these sweeping statements, we should all make smaller simchas. All it takes is one wealthy guy to come forward and say, you know what? Everybody else needs to make smaller simchas because they can't afford it. But I'm a millionaire and I can bring in a 10-piece band and it doesn't cost any. It's no sweat on my back. And they do. And then everybody else says, well, he made a bigger simcha. Why can he make one and I can't? And then you just start all over again. And the problem is that even when Rabbanim try to sometimes rein things in, it takes 1 or 2 people to say that they're not going to listen to bring down that entire. Because I only think it's a house of cards. It really is. And you just get rid of one card, and the whole thing goes and falls apart.
Okay, so there's no clear bottom line to this. Shrubs will continue with their austerity kiddushim for the next few weeks at least.
Austerity kiddushim don't even exist in many times.
I tell you what, we used to get complaints about the quality of the kiddush at Shrubs, right? Yeah. Now, once you bring it back, people will just be so glad to have it back again that I think
Give me a stale kichel. It's better than having to go home without it.
Rabbi, thank you very much. I feel like we could talk about this for hours. I wish there was an answer to it, but I think I think the general answer to that question is it has become a bit of a super league. It's an expensive lifestyle.
It is. But I really believe some of it is self-imposed.
And do you think so?
I believe some of the things that we've done are self-imposed. Some of it is not. Kosher food will cost what kosher food costs. Pesach will cost what Pesach costs. But some of it is extra. That and we could all sort of try to see where we can make those savings or change around our habits to make sure that people can afford it, that it still remains an affordable life. David, there's an important question I mentioned to you that we still need to discuss, and that's the following. I want to put that out there. I think we said that. The question of course, I think we would like to continue Sunday Night Live, and the question was if this should continue being a weekly program, or like Robert Nathan has taken his Tuesday afternoon tea, and I think he's made it once every 4 weeks. We could even do it once a fortnight. But I'm just wondering, as the country opens up and as people will actually be able to go out on Sunday nights, will these programs start to become a little bit monotonous, or people say, I don't want to hear Mintz and Eisenberg speak. I want to go to the theater. I want to go out to a restaurant, etc., etc. So we'd love to have your comments and your feedback. If you'd like to keep this as a weekly program, if we should do this fortnightly, we're definitely going to be continuing it. The question is the frequencies.
You don't need to tell us now. You can send that in on.
Ian's got his joke over there.
Well,
the food was awful and such small portions, right? That's his famous joke.
Correct. And Clive is having to go back. Ian has no taste in music. He's in the Shul choir.
All right.
Who at this moment in time could forget the sound of that very sweet sound of the Shul choir? Wow. Honestly.
Raymond with the baton, with the
Raymond. I've told him Raymond is a threat. He could take somebody's eye out with that baton, but we hope to see them again. Listen, if anybody has got any ideas on frequency of Sunday Night Live, if you want it weekly, we'll do it weekly. If you want it daily, I think it's probably a bit over the top. But if you want it every 2 weeks or just once a month, all you have to do, answers on a postcard. You can send an email into the Shul office, or you can even contact rabbi@shrubberies.org.uk and tell us what you think, and we will act accordingly. We genuinely don't mind doing it. We have a lot of fun doing it. And if there's one person that can listen to Mintz and Eisenberg talking every week, it's Mintz and Eisenberg. We love it.
That's right. And sometimes, Ian Michael Creek. I think Ian will do it as well.
Absolutely, if you can get some reception. I'd like to wish again, a big thank you to Rodney and the trustees for doing what they've done. It is most appreciated and a really lovely gesture. And I want to wish everybody a fabulous week. And good luck to the Friendship Circle with their campaign. And thank you as ever to Rabbi Eisenberg.
As well, just one last thing. If you have any great ideas of topics, things that we haven't discussed yet, we'd love to hear your ideas and we'd love to be able to discuss them. So again, get in touch with the office, get in touch with myself, rabbi@shrubberies.org.uk, or with David, and we'd love to be able to discuss them and spend the time on them.
Okie doke. That's a wrap for this week. Have a great week, everybody. Goodbye.
Take care.